Good morning, America. Thank you for watching Taxes Made Easy live or on rebroadcast. It's Friday, so we get to relax and enjoy a little bit, and we're going to try to have some fun today, even though we're going to cover some serious topics. It's come out, another report has talked about, and this isn't the first time that it's been brought up, how the IRS is not just targeting the rich. Actually, they're going after poor people much more frequently. And the question, and this isn't new to just the Biden administration, but again, it is continuing and intensifying. So the idea that we're just going to soak the rich, give the IRS a bunch more money, and they're going to just go after rich people, huge lie. Again, avoiding and understanding what causes an audit is the most important thing here, and making sure that you have good paperwork in place. It is very key. So we're going to be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for watching Taxes Made Easy. So again, the first article, we've got a lot of good articles here. Some of these aren't happy topics, but we're going to try to keep it light. First article here is something we're all seeing, and this is AI leading to layoffs. So just yesterday, I was calling around for an AC guy, and our AC is on the fritz, right in the middle of the summertime. And I called in, and I had a whole conversation with AI. It was pretty basic. I could tell very quickly that it wasn't a person, that it was AI. They asked pretty simple questions. What's your name? What's your address? Where are you located? And that was my longest call ever from AI. And then this morning, bright and early at around 6:30, I got a call from AI, and they wanted to go through and do a sales pitch where the AI was asking me questions about what I wanted, what it thought I wanted, and I hung up because, look, a person can't even be bothered to call me. But it was just like, it's going to lead to massive shifts in our economy and in our workforce. So TurboTax, doing basic tax returns probably can be done by AI. The question is the program smart enough to recognize when there's something beyond its means? Can it issue spot and say, look, you need something more? That's where my doubts come with AI. The critical thinking part that goes into good tax preparation. Not to be mean to TurboTax, but when you take, some H&R Block, TurboTax, some of these other things where you have people that are trained enough to do basic returns, when more complicated issues come up, that's where we see the problem. So if you have any kind of business, if you have any kind of, you sell property, that's when you really should be looking at a CPA or a more established tax preparer that can make sure to get your case handled correctly. TurboTax usually isn't the way to go on that. But again, they were advertising at the Super Bowl. And again, they have this two-year audit defense plan, which is pretty useless because most IRS issues don't arise until after 2 years. And then even then, their audit defense is not the best in my experience, so to put it mildly. But anyway, they're going to fire about 10% of their workforce. And now, later on in the articles, they said, look, next year we're going to probably hire the same amount back, but it's going to be for different positions. So again, people are going to be moved around. So they're going to be incorporating AI into their products and services. So going through the process, making sure they ask the questions. But again, they're dealing with humans, and there's going to be issues here. There's going to be gaps here. But again, they're trying this, seeing how it works, and we'll move forward from there. Excuse me, pardon me. Okay, so again, these are the positions that are going to be laid off, but they will be looking to consolidate tech jobs, and they have jobs in Bangalore, India, New York, Tel Aviv, Israel. So we have foreign jobs here as well. And a lot of companies believe that companies that aren't prepared to take advantage of this AI revolution will fall behind it over time, will no longer exist. They will become the blockbusters of our time. Blockbuster that refused to buy out Netflix. No, worst move ever. Um, they had that opportunity. So, and then they're saying long term they're going to hire more people, but it's going to be different. Instead of having them actually do the returns, they're going to be involved in sales, customer services, and marketing, areas that are very difficult for AI to fill. So be aware of this. This is a growing trend. It's very much yet to be seen how AI is going to impact the job market, and make things more efficient across the board, or I'm sure there's going to be some gaps and issues as we go through the process, and it's going to can be very frustrating if you actually want to speak to a person that you can actually have a conversation with. So customer service in many ways in our economy is declining, and this might be a huge step. So this is kind of an off-the-wall topic. The next one, this is Apple running into issues in the European Union. So this has to do with other users of other payment services being able to use Apple phones. So Apple developed contactless payments, just like most places, the tap and go, very common. But they set up their phones, so Apple Pay, you had to use Apple Pay with an Apple phone. And the EU said, look, you're creating a vertical monopoly here and refusing to let other tap and go services and companies use Apple phones for paying. So if you have an Apple phone, they designed it so you could only use the Apple Pay, which makes sense. Why would they help their competition? But the EU came in and said, no, this is not fair. You need to make adjustments here. Apple complied. So in a way, you can say encourages competition and breaks up that vertical monopoly. A vertical monopoly is where you have, if you use an Apple device, you have to use Apple Pay, you have to use, Apple TV. I mean, it just makes it where you have a lot of services stuck in the same thing and you don't have much choice. So that's where you get the monopoly part of it. So if you use an Apple phone, which is very, very popular, you're limited in your options, what you can do. And so that's why they're cracking down on it. So we're going to share some fun videos here just to kind of highlight some of the points we're going to make. And we're going to start off with this first one about dolphins.
See, when a group of dolphins were trained to bring the trash and dead seagulls that would end up in their enclosures to their handlers in exchange for a treat for each piece of debris, one of them quickly learned to tear apart each piece of trash and gull to maximize the number of rewards. The other dolphins picked up on the scheme and then took it further, going so far as to hunt gulls and drag in nearby trash just so they could rip them apart to exchange the pieces for rewards. The moral of the story? It's not the intentions behind policy that affects people or animals' behavior. It's the incentives. And no matter the society or even species, that's always going to be the case. When a group of dolphins were trained to bring the...
Okay, so why am I sharing this? Last, we were talking about communist China, how yesterday, how when Chairman Mao Zedong mandated huge increases in steel production, but again, it was way beyond the ability for the economy to produce. They went out and just melted all kinds of household items, destroyed all kinds of things that they used to make scrap metal that was useless for steel production, but it still was steel production. And all the different areas got to check off, hey, we met our quotas, yay, even though it really affected and hurt the people in those areas and did not produce usable steel. So we see that even in our own economy, and that's one of the things that we're going to go into next. Next article here is about counterfeit airbags. Perverse incentives to put in counterfeit airbags. So this is Carfax coming out and saying this. This is kind of scary. They're saying Texas probably has about 200,000 vehicles on the road currently with counterfeit airbags. This might try to start running on me.
Can you handle more legal?
Okay. So the issue is that 2 million cars on the road today were involved in an accident where the airbag deployed over the last couple of years. When you have that, you have to replace the airbag. It has to get fixed. Now, if you have a used car, you need to check or pay attention to what airbag was used as a replacement. The problem with that is that when you have when the counterfeit or insufficient airbag is put in there, it can cause severe injuries, even death. And so 10 states have over 40,000 vehicles on the road after an airbag deployment, and some have over 100,000 on the road. So again, this really is a warning to used car buyers and owners to be aware of cheap substandard replacement airbag inflators. You have to have an airbag. But just like the article, sometimes instead of giving you the real deal or something made in the United States that meets standards, they'll put in a substandard one that can cause huge problems. So while some people claim it's a rare occurrence, it's becoming a bigger issue. So in the last year alone, 3 people were killed and 2 others suffered life-altering, disfiguring injuries after faulty airbag exploded. So when they explode, and these were confirmed to have been manufactured overseas. And what kind of injuries we're looking at? Malfunction sending large metal fragments into drivers' chests, neck, eyes, and faces, killing or severely injuring drivers in otherwise survivable crashes. They can also deploy only partially or too slowly, allowing the driver's head to strike the steering wheel or dashboard. So if you are looking to buy a used vehicle that's been in an accident or the airbag has deployed, make sure it has genuine airbag inflators, or you might not want to purchase that vehicle. So something to be aware of, substandard parts being put in because they're required, but not actually doing the job. So where are we? We're coming up on another break in just about 20 seconds. Just as a little precursor here, next article hits home for me. Suicide rates in the military, especially the Navy, and I served in the Navy, so I'm going to dive into that and some of the issues here, not just with the Navy, but others when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. So this and like hard to go here and talk about suicide, but again, it's something that definitely faces our military, definitely faces young men more than any other, in alarming rates, and so this is something that definitely hits home. So when you have a record high number suicide rates within the first 3 months of 2024. There are reports of poor quality of life and high stress for members of the branch, especially the Navy when they're out at sea for long periods of time, and especially if you're on a submarine. It can be a very stressful situation. I went on a med cruise myself. I loved it, but there were definitely times out at sea that it was very stressful. So 24 reported suicides in the first quarter of 2024, so the highest since 2018 when they first started tracking the data. So again, anything to help and focus on suicide rates for current military members and also for veterans is something I applaud. We should be aware of this. I'm just going to go through the different years. And suicides went up in 2022 and dipped a little bit in 2023, but right now, unfortunately, just 24, just the first quarter, we're on track to beat that number, which is again very scary. So the Navy and they've been trying to take steps to address this, but now starting in February, the Pentagon Office of General Inspector General is going to be doing another investigation to see what's going on. 40% are reporting that they felt severe or extreme stress, up from 29% in 2019. So again, very hard to deal with. These are kids coming out of COVID. Mental health generally is lacking for a lot of young kids, and I have a 21-year-old, 19-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and between their friends, between others, it is a very real thing. They had a friend commit suicide just about 3 to 4 months ago. Very scary. So be mindful, especially of those serving, but be mindful of your youth. I had a bishop at church told me that if you turn around and scratch youth, you're going to find some kind of mental health issue. So be very mindful of what they're going through, their experiences. I mean, it's easy to think that look, these kids are soft, etc. Doesn't mean they don't need help. Doesn't mean they don't need good mentors to help them. Going with that article, this is even more frustrating. So this is bipartisan. This is from the Washington Post. Tax-funded youth treatment centers are warehouses of neglect is what's accused in the Senate report that just came out. So this is not just one party. This is a bipartisan move. So bipartisan oversight legislation is now planned to address this. So one of the key top quotes from this: "Your tax dollars at work was never meant to include child abuse." Now, if you don't know or haven't ever been in a mental facility, it is tough. I mean, it is extremely difficult. So I want to take a step back and recognize how amazingly difficult this is for the people involved, for the workers, etc. But if there are issues where kids are not being taken care of, if they're being abused, we need more oversight. These are taxpayer dollars to support some of the most vulnerable in our society, people going through mental health issues, needing more assistance than ever. And if there are abuses, they should be addressed. So again, there's plenty of accusations of abuse. So here you have Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, claiming that they're profiting off of rampant abuse. being funded by taxpayer dollars. And, the investigation found treatment facility residents suffer harms, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse at the hands of staff and peers. And again, it's just one specific example was a 2020 death of a 16-year-old is killed by staffers. So he threw a sandwich at a youth, at someone else. Again, this is probably a severe overreaction, but when people start throwing stuff, you don't know what's in the sandwich. You don't know what's going on. But he was tackled, knocked to the floor by a staffer, and then multiple other employees piled on. My own son works at a mental hospital right now, and it's tough. You don't know when someone's going off, and he had someone coming after him with a fork, or no, a pin, with a pin, which, stabbed in the neck can cause massive injuries. Two of the staffers pleaded to no contest to involuntary manslaughter. Another pleaded to third-degree child abuse. There's plenty of other stories. Sasha Oates, she was placed in a mental institution at 14 and was sexually assaulted. Some of these things can be justified. Being forcibly tube fed to keep her alive. If she's going to die otherwise, it's to help people go through this when they're not mentally stable it's one of the most difficult things. And my own wife had a severe mental breakdown, almost 20 years ago. But the stuff that she went through and the staff went through is very scary. So again, I don't want to focus on this too much, but I do want to call this out. I do think it's great that there's a lot of issues being passed through the Congress, through the Republic, through the House of Representatives and the Senate that are bipartisan, that everybody gets behind and tries to do good by the community, tries to take care of issues like this. So I'm glad this is being done in a bipartisan issue, and it's important that we be aware of these things as taxpayers. So I'm going to jump to another video, this one, talking about inflation. Yay.
I can't believe how expensive everything is.
What could have caused this?
The Federal Reserve.
You and your conspiracy theories.
Did somebody say conspiracy? Because, brother, I need to talk to you.
Nice gator. How's on gas?
Well, it's hybrid. Runs on chickens and drifters, so not so good. That's why I'm on board with this Federal Reserve you're talking about. What is it?
The Federal Reserve, or the Fed, is our central bank, which was created in 1913. It supposedly has three primary jobs: maximizing employment, stabilizing prices, and moderating long-term interest rates. So it plays a massive role in the supply of money in our economy.
Great, so why don't they just print more? How else are we going to afford these price increases?
That's basically what they've been doing. The Fed has kept interest rates at historic lows for the last few years. Low rates encourage people to borrow and spend more money. Simplifying things a bit, the more people borrow, the more the total money of the Fed's balance sheet expands. Meanwhile, we haven't exactly been producing all that much to match that currency in the last couple years.
So that's why Sudafed got so expensive.
Yeah, that's inflation.
But isn't that what the Fed's supposed to prevent?
Yeah, and they're doing a great job. That's what you get when you put lizard people in charge of the economy.
Anyway, the Fed is supposed to keep inflation low, but the only way they can do that at this point is if they significantly increase interest rates and pull back the amount of money available in the economy. But doing that would probably create a huge drop in consumer spending, which could result in job losses and more businesses going bankrupt.
So they're darned if they do and darned if they don't.
Yeah, but it's a problem they created.
And more like we're darned if they do and darned if they don't. Well, I'm convinced. Let's go find this Federal Reserve and beat them up.
And how are we supposed to do that? We can barely afford to drive home.
Hop in! He won't bite! Probably.
Thank you.
So I've actually shared this video before, and it ties right into some inflation numbers that just came out. And so this came out yesterday. The new inflation numbers for the month of June. Big headline, inflation falls 0.1%. Woo! From prior month. Very ever so slight improvement in the CPI. And so putting the 12-month rate at the CPI at 3%, lowest level in more than 3 years. But again, they exclude food and energy costs, which are definitely higher. And on the flip side, core CPI increased 0.1%. So it all depends on the matter. One of them's down 1%, the other one's up 0.1%. So just slight variations. One goes up a little bit, one goes down a little bit. Are we having any real change in inflation when you look at the actual numbers that people are experiencing? Probably not. You had a 3.8 slide in gasoline prices that held back inflation for the month. Why? Well, if we remember back a month ago, just before the heading into the 4th of July weekend, the Biden administration decided to release millions more of oil from the Federal Reserves, or from the national strategic national reserves. So again, that pushed down gas prices, which lowered inflation for the month, but that was a temporary fix for the 4th of July. And I mean, that spigot's ended. So now expect gasoline prices to go right back up. So that's, even though the numbers got pushed down slightly for 1 month, and we're talking about 0.1%, so ever so slightly, expected to go right back up because gasoline prices are going to go back up unless they continue to flood the market with our reserves that's supposed to be saved for an emergency. So again, 3.9 slide in gasoline prices offset by a 0.2% increase in both food and shelter month over month. So again, they're trying to say this, hey, this might be a good excuse that the Federal Reserve can cite to start lowering interest rates. But if you look at just that one number and compare it to the broader economy, it's a very, very much a mixed bag. This is not clearly a win. And it goes into the numbers more. So going into inflation even more, this is a CNN article that I'm going to be sharing next. Unexpected bad news for inflation. Wholesale prices actually went up in June. So, and this is looking at the PPI, and it gets really confusing. The CPI, core CPI, PPI, it's all the different ways to peel the same orange and try to see what's going on in the economy. So right here, it was unexpected. It accelerated in June, highest since March of 2023, which means wholesale prices, what producers pay to get products and produce things, went up. So so it went up to 2.6% from 2.4% in May. So again, that's a 0.2% increase after holding flat in May. That price increase will only get passed on to the consumers as products actually produced and then hit the sales floors and actually go to consumers. So final demand services went up. As demand goes up, you have other margins going up. So don't want to dive into this too much. I want to keep moving through these topics. We have a lot, but again, inflation, still a concern. And again, that's one of the things the Federal Reserve is definitely looking at. Now, one of the things the cartoon mentioned, that even if they stop the Federal Reserve, even if the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, again, it can create all kinds of problems. So there's no easy fix. The Fed is looking at not only interest rates and inflation as far as whether or not they should increase rates, but also the job market. As the job market softens, it makes it harder for them to know exactly how to move forward. So we're going to move. I've got another fun video here, and this one is a little different. This is Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. So here we go.
Hello? Hello?
Can I help you?
Hi, my class is here on a field trip, and I'm supposed to interview someone for a school project.
Okay. You can wait at that table, and someone will be here sometime.
But aren't you here now?
No. Look, little girl, can we postpone this for another day? It's unsettling having you just sit there.
But my report's too small.
What's it on?
Why government matters?
Really? It's never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore, chapped nipples. I'm gonna need a different metaphor to get this 9-year-old. What's your name, ma'am?
Lauren Burgess.
Lauren. My name is Ron Swanson, and I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about the miserable, screwed-up world of local government.
You mustard in your mustache.
Don't sass me, Burkus. Let's get started. Life, liberty, and property. It's John Locke. This is your lunch. Now, you should be able to do whatever you want to with this, right? If you want to eat all of it, great. If you want to throw it away in the garbage, that's your prerogative. But here I come, the government. And I get to take 40% of your lunch. And that, Lauren, is how taxes work.
That's not fair.
You're learning. Uh-oh. Capital gains tax.
Oh, it cracks me up. It's just we're coming up on a break now. But you know, I used to tease my own kids, you know, and when they had ice cream or something, Dad would come along and take a bite or whatever. And I'm like, Dad, I'm like, taxes, got to learn early. Maybe having a tax attorney for a father was not the most enjoyable all the time. But again, now that they're starting to pay taxes, they're realizing, ooh, it does take a good chunk. And when you look at capital gains, when you look at sales taxes, when you look at all the taxes that get piled on, the final cost of taxes is really high. And when we come back to this break, we're really going to dive into the main topic for the day, how the IRS is auditing and targeting poor people and how to avoid it. So again, this idea that the IRS is just going to go after the wealthy, bunch of malarkey, hasn't been that case for many years. We'll be covering that. We've got 3 different articles about that. So, and then we'll talk about this video and how that applies. So stay tuned, and we've got a little more humor, but again, it's Friday. You have to laugh. You have to breathe. And, again, that's what we're going to talk about, is how to breathe and not worry and stress out about the IRS as you protect you and your family's finances from the government. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. And I've got a new article that we're sharing, and this is really going to the topic of the day. And this is just came out yesterday. But the IRS has a penchant for targeting everyday Americans. So they talk the talk, they put out the PR, oh, we're only going after the rich. If you believe what the government is selling you, I've got a wonderful bridge to sell you from, it's in Alaska. It's wonderful, connects to Russia, etc. Um, so here's the question is, and this is not, and to be fair, this is not just the President Joe Biden's administration. They have been much more aggressive in going after everybody, but that includes the middle class, especially self-employed individuals, but also the poorest Americans as well. But again, this is not having audits target the poorest in America is not a new thing. Why? Because it's easy to audit and take money away from the poorest in society because they don't know how to defend their rights. They don't have, when they audit the rich, it's expensive, it's time consuming because they fight it, because they have attorneys, they have CPAs that get in there and fight the IRS. Your average person doesn't have that. They don't know where to go to. So, one of their priorities is to provide real fairness, to go after the wealthy, but in practice, this has been anything but the case. And this is what I've seen, not just throughout the last, during the Biden administration, but this has continued before it. So one of the quotes that we're going to see here is prior to the Biden administration. Again, they always say they're going to make the rich pay their fair share. It's been repeated time and time again. Yes, they're going after the rich, but they're going after everybody. So we're going to break down some facts here. Which areas of the country are most likely to be targeted by the IRS? You would think it would be higher earning areas such as New York City, LA, Chicago, even DC. They are not the most scrutinized, though. One of the most highly targeted counties in the nation is Humphreys County, Mississippi. That's not where the money is. That's not where the wealthy is. It's not in this backwater county in Mississippi. No offense to Mississippi. 1/3 of the county lives in poverty, below the poverty, and the average income is $18,000 per year. So that's pretty low. So especially in 2024, which is, the article just came out yesterday. So many of the poorest counties in the entire country have the most heightened concentration of IRS audits. It's a little funky way of saying it, but again, still has the same impact that this isn't by accident. In 2019, under the Trump administration, Charles Reddick, who was the commissioner at the time, testified before Congress, and here's the kicker: auditing low-income Americans is the most efficient use of available IRS resources. So that sounds horrible. It is horrible. But the justification here is that it doesn't use up nearly as much staff. They don't have the resources to fight back. And so auditing them does not tie up as many agency staff. Like I said, I shared the other day, I have a current client who's fighting the IRS for 3 years now. Finally, we're talking to someone that actually has some power after 3 years. And again, they're doing their best to reject the earned income credit that she claimed for a child, and they're claiming that she doesn't have proof, she doesn't have this or that, when it's not on their list. When it's not being, they're not giving her credit for it because they want a specific letter. And how old was the child? They want a letter that has the child's name on it, a prescription, doctor notes, something, school, and that shows the grandmother's address where she was living for a couple of years with her daughter. So the grandmother's daughter was living with her grandchild. Granddaughter didn't have any money. Grandparents were supporting him, so they claimed the child on their tax return. Perfectly legal. And the IRS is fighting it tooth and nail. So by targeting the poorest, that means a lot of minorities are being targeted. They talk about doing things in a just manner, but ethnic minorities comprise majorities in 151 counties. Of those 151 poorest counties in the United States, 144 received audit scrutiny above the national average. If this doesn't irritate you, it should. Is this coincidence? No, you don't get numbers like that, and it's being good. It's not coincidence. In 2013, they found themselves in hot water for targeting political rivals under the Biden administration. They've also played fast and loose with sensitive taxpayer data. So if this is happening, what do you do? And this is a key thing. First of all, keep good records. This is one of the biggest problems, is that we're dealing with this issue for this gal first rose its ugly head in 2021. She claimed her granddaughter in 2018. So she had to go back 3 years, try to dig up data. We've been fighting the IRS for 3 years, and now it's been 6 years, and they're asking for more proof 6 years ago. So when you have children that you claim, save their school records, save something that shows that they lived with you. If you claim them on that tax return, get something showing that you were supporting and providing the majority of the proof. If you're not sure, call and talk to a tax professional. This is what should be a smoking gun. This is what should be helping me out, and just save those returns. Again, usually they get audited about 2 to 4 years out, and just file that stuff away, prepare for it. It's one of the biggest things the IRS targets is the earned income credit. So, and this isn't anything new. Jumping to the next article on this, from Yahoo Finance. This was a year ago, roughly. Just over a year. So IRS tax audits target and burden lower income families. And again, yes, they're relying on ancient technology. Their systems are still DOS-based. But one of the biggest things they're going after is the earned income credit, which is used by lower income households. So again, they get notices, they don't know how to respond, they get refund delays, and so here you have families with low incomes are relatively easy and inexpensive to audit compared to more wealthy individuals and corporations. So the IRS has shifted their focus and unfortunately away from higher income earners to where it's easier to get money. And that's going after low-income families, and it's a very scary thing. I talk to people all the time that get notices like this. They don't know what to do. They don't need to know how to handle this. So one of the frustrating things is when they call around, if you don't owe more than $10,000, a lot of people just don't want to help. So a couple things here. We've actually partnered with another firm that does handle cases for less than $10,000. So if you have a smaller case and you still need assistance, give us a call, 520-485-7371. If we don't handle your case and it's not something that, again, it's not worth our time as a tax law firm, we do try to make sure people get taken care of. Like I said, we have another firm that we're referring people to for smaller cases. But also there are free legal tax clinics across the country. So some are better than others. A lot of them are located at your local law schools. I know some have closed down. COVID did a number on a lot of charitable organizations that provided free tax clinics across the country. There's still assistance out there, though. It might not be as close to you as you'd like, but look into it. And when you call our firm, we will always give you free advice to help steer you in the right direction. But it's really a shame that the IRS targets poor counties and individuals, because it's that much easier to reject what they're legally entitled to. But they don't know how to respond. They don't know how to fight the system. And the IRS has made this system harder than ever to get through to get good assistance with, especially with audits. So when you get these notices, don't ignore them. You do need to respond as quickly as possible. This article is a year old, but again, this trend has continued. Nearly 50% of IRS audits went to families making less than $25,000 and claiming the EITC, or Earned Income Credit. 50% targeting the poorest in American society. That is eye-opening. That is frustrating. So again, the burden disproportionately falls on lower income families, and they face the largest audit scrutiny among other income ranges. So when they have drawdown audits, because half the time the IRS takes forever to respond, it takes forever to address these issues. And again, that's probably a strategic move on their part. The longer they drag it out, the more people fall away. When they do ask for something, you have a very tight time frame to respond, and you have to make sure you're on top of it. So again, this is to try to address some of these issues. They did a new website portal. It's not up yet, and it's just very frustrating. And if you have to amend your returns, you have to go back to a tax professional. So if you get these notices, go to a tax professional. You can correct any mistakes if on these returns. Still get your refunds within 3 years of the tax return. But again, some very real ways that it's hurting people. You know, again, this one family has 2 kids under the age of 4. They're working, and they've been waiting for their refund since April of 2022. A year later, they still didn't have their refund, and this is happening more and more. And when people call in, they say, well, where's my refund? You can go on to irs.gov, and there's something to look at. But again, calling them, harassing the IRS, turn the tables on them. You have to bug them. The best time to get through is between 5 to 7 p.m. Not all IRS departments are open that late, though. So the audit department in particular, you should use Taxpayer Advocate. If it does work and you get someone, stay on top of them. You have to be, the squeaky wheel here. And you could also file a TIGTA report. So TIGTA. This is the official way to file a formal complaint with the IRS. And you do have options, but again, the responsiveness is lower than anywhere else. Again, some of the just really troubling information here. 90% of lower-income families who got audited received the audit by mail. They don't even know. Again, they're cutting face-to-face audits, so people, they just get this letter in the mail and they don't know how to respond, what they need, etc. People look at these IRS letters and it's like reading Greek. So we have one last article to crack down on. Well, not crack down on, to cover as we wrap up here. And this is from Reason. Puts it into perspective. So this week the IRS came out, did a little PR lap, and said, hey, we collected $1 billion from high income earners. Doesn't compare it to the previous year. So they're saying $1 billion, but doesn't compare it to what it would have been normally at this year. But they're touting this as a huge success. That $1 billion will fund the government for about 90 minutes. So here's the truth of the matter. When you're spending $6.1 trillion, that's what we spent last year, that's $16.7 billion per day, or $700 million per hour. So, $1 billion would be spent in roughly 90 minutes. So that's how quickly the government burns through $1 billion. It take about 90 minutes to just burn right through that. Again, they're touting this as a success, but look at the damage they're doing to individuals, the damage they're doing to businesses, having to fight audits and pay for legal fees, especially smaller businesses that don't know how to respond. So it's not just the poor that's being hit, but also small businesses are having a much harder time fighting these audits. and the damage that they're causing to the economy just to scratch out another $1 billion. Whoop the flippin' do. Again, it just really frustrates me as a taxpayer, well, as a tax attorney, seeing how it hurts people. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, give us a call, 520-485-7371. Look us up online. We give free advice all the time. If you get a scary letter, we review it for free. So that way you aren't in this situation where you're getting hammered, you're losing your rights just because you don't know how to respond. I want everybody to take a sigh, relax, breathe, and enjoy this weekend. And come Monday morning or later today, if you have questions, just reach out to us. We're here to help and provide that service to taxpayers all across the country. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy it.